So a lot of people have asked for the tutorial on these gloves, but before I did the tutorial, I decided to change the pattern. So when I originally made these, a lot of people had double crochet across the palm, so then you could continue on the pattern from the crocodile stitch. I didn't like that idea. I wanted single crochet, so it was a tighter stitch across my palm. The only thing is, it meant I had a bit of a backwards way of trying to do it all as one piece. And in the end, as you can see, crocodile stitches ended up coming across my palm. And all in all, even though they looked good, I wasn't happy with the end design. Which is why, before I did this, I decided to redo the pattern. And as you can see, when I lay my hands down flat, on the palm, I don't have any of the crocodile stitches. I've just got single crochet. And I don't have anything around my thumb this time. I may change that at some point, but for now, the basic design is going to look like this. The new ones do look a little bit loose. You could probably take that in if you wanted. However, I have a tendency to stick my fingers inside my glove when it's quite cold if I'm not doing anything with my hands. So for me, having them slightly looser suits me because that is how I sometimes sit. I also made the cuff a little bit longer. Like I said, you could make that as long as or short as you wanted. So what we will need for this, so the yarn I use for this one is actually two combined. I use Universe Hobie yarn, and I think you say Colorina from Hobie as well. I always like the way that when you combine these two, it just slightly dampens the brightness of the colours, but you can still see the grey come through in places as well as the black from the other yarn. I think they turned out really nice. They also matched my snood that I made because I did that in the same combination of two yarns. I actually ended up using for both pairs, I think I used less than one skein of each of these. I definitely used less than one for the Universe yarn. I'm just trying to remember if I used less than one of this yarn as well. I believe I did. But for this tutorial, I'm going to use this yarn. It's double knitting. It's going to be the same size hook that I used. I always use for double knit yarn a 5mm hook. So to get started, the first thing we're going to be doing is we'll be working on the rib here. Now, depending on the size of your wrist, depends on how many rows you want to do. For this, I will be doing 28 in total. If you've got a bigger wrist, you can obviously use use more rows. But for this tutorial, like I said, I will just be doing 28. So first I make a slip knot. What I do is I grab the yarn, wrap it around my fingers, I make a cross on the underside of my fingers, take my hook, go under that first loop, over the second loop, and hook it on and pull that loop through, and then you just pull it tight, and then you just tighten the knot on your hook like that. So for mine, I chained 11. So like I said, if you want your ribbing longer, you can chain more. If you want your ribbing shorter, chain less. So I want 10 chains on mine, but because I need the turning stitch, that's why I'm chaining 11. So you got your slip knot, and you go yarn over, and you hook that yarn over, and then pull it through that slip knot. So that's one chain. Yarn over, pull that loop through, so that's now 2 chains. Yarn over and pull through, and then you just keep doing that until you've got your number of chains. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One more makes 11. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to do some single crochet. Now in UK terminology, this is a double crochet, but I will be using US terminology. So what you do is the second chain from the hook, you insert your hook into there, yarn over, pull that loop through that first chain on your hook, so you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull that through both loops. And then into the next chain, you do exactly the same. You insert your hook, put your yarn over, pull that loop through, so you've got 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through both of those. So what you do is you continue doing that all down here until you've got 10 single crochets. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Whoop. There we go. So you keep doing that till you get to the end. And then I always like to just double check I do have the correct number. So you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because that 11th chain was your turning chain. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what we do is you chain 1 and turn your work. Okay. And then the second stitch from the hook. So that turning chain is the first one. Now, second chain here. What we're going to do is we're going to be doing single crochet again, but into the back loops only. So you've got these 2 loops. You've got the 2 loops here. This is the front loop. This is the back loop. Normally, you'd put your hook through both of these stitches like that. We are just going to be putting the hook through these back loops along here. What that does is it creates the rib design that we're after. So, the 1, 2, insert your hook as you have done before. Put the yarn over. Oh, you can't grab it now. Put the yarn over. Pull that through the first loop. Yarn over. Pull through 2. Doing exactly the same, but like I said, in the back loops only. So that back loop there. Hook through. Yarn over. Pull through. Yarn over. Pull through 2. Back loop. There we go. You can already see it's starting to make that rib design. Oops, can't get my hook through. Okay, and then like I said, sometimes I will still double check to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have all 10 stitches. So you can see that that rib design is starting to come through because you've got a slight raised section here. And when you flip it over, you can see it's starting to like become a V, which is exactly what we want. So chain 1, turn over your work, and then we're going to do the same. So 2 stitches from the hook, insert your hook into the back loop only, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, same again, insert into that back loop only, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do that all the way till we get back here. There we go. So that's what we're going to be doing now until you finish your 28 rows. You'll be second stitch from the hook in the back loops only. We then be doing 10 single crochets, chain 1, turn your work over, and repeating until you've got your desired number of rows. So what I'll do, I will finish that and then I'll see you back here. Okay, so here we are. I've got my last couple of stitches to do. There we go. So this is my 28 rows. My quick way I usually do of counting these is every raised part here counts as 2 because you've obviously got 1 row here and 1 row here. So 1 row that goes down, 1 that goes up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and this last one makes 14. So that's 28 rows in total. So what we need to do next is to join it. What I usually do as well is just make sure it will actually fit around my wrist. Sometimes I'll just pinch it there and then, as you can see, I can get it comfortably around my wrist. So just make sure it will actually fit you first. If you need to add extra rows in, you can add extra rows in. You might just find that you might have to add a wider palm, which I can always go through later. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the first row. So what you do, chain 1, as we've done on previous rows, put your hook through that second chain, if I can get it through. Put your hook through the first chain stitch here as well. Make sure that's tight. Yarn over and pull that loop through all the loops. So you've just got 1 on your hook again. Again, yarn through that back loop, yarn through the back loop on the first row, the next one along, yarn over and then pull that through all 3 loops. You just keep going along doing that. So just make sure as you go along that you are matching up these. So when you put the yarn through, like here, the 9th stitch, you need to make sure it's the 9th stitch on the first row as well, otherwise it might come out a little bit wonky. There we go. Okay. Now is a good time as well to double check again to make sure that this will fit. There we go. That is a little bit loose on me, but I don't mind. There we go. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to be doing, so where the ribbon's finished here, we're now going to be doing this section, which is just single crochet. You can do this for as many rows as you want. I did 6 rows to get this height, which, as you can see on me, that's my ribbon here. So this comes up quite high up my wrist. It completely covers my wrist, which is what I wanted. So I did 6 rows. As I said, you can do them as few or as many as you want. You'll need to do at least 1 row though. So let's get the yarn back on the hook. Okay, so you know you've done 28 rows, so we're going to be doing 28 single crochets. I did find this bit a little bit fiddly myself, but what we do is you chain 1 to get the height, and we're now going to be working along this edge. So insert your hook. So when you look here, we'll be putting our hook into the top here. Just make sure you don't accidentally do too many stitches. because sometimes I find I get confused as to what is actually the stitch. But just think, so if you've got these two ridges here, you'll be putting one stitch in the top here and one in here. There will only be 2 single crochets between each section of ribbing. As we're done with single crochet, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull that through those 2 loops. And just keep doing that all the way around. Because sometimes I find it a bit fiddly to work out exactly where to put the hook. But as long as I've got those 2 stitches between each section, I'm happy. Okay. And then what we'll be doing, we'll be slip stitching into the top of that first stitch. If you want to go back and just double check you've got all your stitches, I normally do just to make sure. Also helps when you count. So I now know, because sometimes like I said I can't see very clearly, that is the one I'm going to be slipping into because that is 28 there. So as we've done, when we slip stitch the rib stitch, insert your hook into the top there. We'll go through both loops now. So both loops on here, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through. Okay, so we won't be doing this in the round because in the round you just continually go round. We're going to be doing this as rows. So at the end of every row, you'll slip stitch back into the first stitch, and then because we're doing single crochet, you'll be doing 1 chain to get the height. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be doing 6 rows. You can do as many rows as you like. So what we'll do, we'll do our rows and then we'll meet back here. Now we've finished the 6 rows, we can now move on to doing the palm. Like I said, if you want to make this bit longer so it comes further down your wrist, that's absolutely fine. It's not going to affect the rest of the pattern. So what we're going to do the palm is we're going to, so what we're going to do for the palm is we're going to chain 1, and then we are going to do 14 single crochets. Now again, if you could make, depending if you've made this bigger, you might need to put more stitches in, but just for this example, I'm going to do 14 single crochets. Okay, so that's 14. Okay, so like I said, for me, that is as wide as I need it for my palm. Okay, so then what we're going to do, chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. So now we're going to working back along this row here. So the idea is we're just going to be building like a panel up the front of this. Now I did it for 14 rows, but again, depending on the length of your hand, how high up you want it to come, you just need to note how many rows that you do. But for me, I did 14. So all we're doing, like I said, is single crochets all the way across again. So it should be 14 you've got there. It's 14, and then what you do once again, so that's 2 rows, you just chain 1, turn your work, and we're working back along again. I'm doing that for 14 rows, so what I'll do is I'll finish the rows off and then I'll meet you back here for what we need to do next. Okay, I'm just going to pull that through a sec. So if I try it on, so it comes up to here, but just remember that once we've done the crocodile stitch and sewn it onto the back side, what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a couple of rows around the top of single crochet, so this will be sitting a little bit higher. So now I'm happy with that. going to fasten it off. Okay, then I'll weave that in later. I might even weave that in when I actually sew the crocodile stitch on. But that's the first part done. The next part is the trickier part, because this is the actual crocodile stitch. So what we're going to do, we're now going to work on the crocodile stitch panel. And what we need to do is work in multiple of 6 on the foundation chain. So I'm going to do 18. Now I know when it comes to sewing it on, I've only got 14 stitches to sew it onto. But probably in a legal crochet move, I'm going to make it fit when I stitch it on, because I need it wider on my hand anyway, and I don't want it any wider along here. And on the other gloves it fits just fine by doing that. That's why if you actually increase this bit, you can still use, it's like by 4 stitches, you can still have the exact same number of stitches along here as well as on your crocodile stitch. You just might be a little tighter than what mine will be. However, so I'm going to do 18 chains. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. The nice thing about this part of the pattern as well is you can actually easily change colour here. So if you did this as one solid colour, you could then have your crocodile stitch panel as a completely different yarn. So I've considered doing them where this is all black and then have one of some variegated yarn to run through it. Something I might consider doing for something like for another one. Or you could just have it as 2 completely different yarns. You can have it as the same yarn. This is where it's easy to mix up the colours. So now I've got my chain of 18. I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to be putting our hook into that chain there. So to do a double crochet, it's yarn over your hook. We're going to put the hook through that 6th chain, yarn over, pull that loop through, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then we're going to chain 1, so yarn over and pull through. Then we're going to double crochet again in that same stitch, there. So put your yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull that loop through, so you've got 3 on your hook again, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we're going to skip 2 chains, so we're working in that 3rd one along. Then we're going to double crochet 1, chain 1, and then double crochet 1 in there again. And then we're going to be skipping 2 again and repeating that again. So we're going to double crochet 1, chain 1, double crochet 1, skip 2 chains, yarn over, do another double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet, and we are going to skip 2, yarn over, and do another double crochet. There we go. And then chain 1, and then double crochet, skip 2, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and you will notice there is only 1 chain left, which is absolutely fine. We're just gonna double crochet in that last chain. There we go. So this is what we've got. So what we're going to do when you do the crocodile stitch, I do have a tutorial on how to do the crocodile stitch, but it was in a shawl. And with the shawl, you started off with one crocodile stitch and you worked your way and it got wider, so like into a triangle. But with this, because we're doing a flat panel, it is slightly different, but the general way to do the crocodile stitch will be the same. And what we'll be doing is we'll be working up and down these posts, and we'll be doing our crocodile stitch like around these posts. And then when we get to the other end, we'll then be working our way back and making like another, I'll say foundation like this, and then when we work back across again, you'll be doing the crocodile stitch. So you should have, where you've got double crochet at one end and the chain at the other, this counts as your double crochet. And then you should have, if you've done 18, 6 of these like V's. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1, turn, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch. Okay, and then we're going to do 5 double crochets around this first double crochet here, or a post. So what you want to do is, if it's easier if you hold the post like that, just to make sure you know which one you're going round. Yarn over and then just put, like you would through a stitch, put your hook under that post and out the other side. Yarn over and pull through. So it's just like you would if you were putting it through a stitch. It's just instead your stitch is actually one of these posts from your double crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. You can do that 4 more times. So yarn over. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you're going to chain 1, okay, and then so the other post that's in that V shape you had here, you're then going to just, if you turn your work over, it's easier, and then I can do the same. If you lift, it's getting a bit fiddly, if you lift that post up there so you can see through it there, okay, put the yarn over and then do the exact same thing, but this time you're working up the post while last time you're working down. So do 5, that's a bit loose, hang on, do 5 double crochets into there. There we go. So that is a crocodile stitch. Okay. So as you can see, it looks like a scale. So I always say the dragon scale, and I usually end up saying that instead of its actual name, which, like I said, is crocodile stitch. So then, what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into this next V. If we do a crocodile stitch into every single one of these V's, it's going to get very crowded. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into this one, and then we'll do a crocodile stitch on this one, slip stitch, crocodile stitch, slip stitch. And what we'll do on the next round is we will alternate. So I'm going to be doing the crocodile stitch here instead of on this first one. It just makes it staggered a bit and spreads it out a little more. So put your hook into that V, yarn over, and then just slip stitch as normal. And then all we're going to do is double crochet 5 down this next post again. So like I said, if it makes it easy, just pull the post out and then do 5 double crochets. Okay, I think I did 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And then you chain 1, and then if you spin your work round and go to the next post, yarn over, and then do 5 double crochets. I'm just having a yarn bath issue, so bear with me. There we go. So that was 2. At the minute it doesn't look much because it does get scrunched up quite a lot as you're doing it. However, as we go through it, it will start laying out flatter, but also when you sew it on, it will lay out flat, no problem. So once you've done your 5 double crochets again, slip stitch into that next V, and then same again, 5 double crochets down the V, chain 1, 5 up. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch into that chain, slip stitch into these V's again, and then we're going to slip stitch into the top of this double crochet, and then slip stitch into the top of this chain 3 here. Okay, so that is the first row complete. So you can see how that's going to sit on here. If I can lay that down flat, a little bit of curl on. That's going to sit on there like that. So we're going to be doing a foundation, and then we'll be doing the crocodile stitch again. So we're going to chain 3, turn the work over. Yeah, so you might have to pull these apart slightly to try and get into the V. So we're going to be working into these V's. So I've just got to move the crocodile stitch out of the way. We're going to do a double crochet into this V, like that, chain 1, and then another double crochet, then we're going to into this V, so this is now into the center of the crocodile stitch. We're going to do a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet again, and then if you pull apart the work again, so into the next V, you do the same again. So it's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then into the center of this one between the V's, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then again pull them apart so you can get to that one, double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet, and then into the center of this one, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then double crochet into the top of this double crochet here at the end. If I can. Here we go. So there, as you can see, so that's now the foundation ready for the next row of crocodile stitches. But like I said, what we're going to be doing is instead of putting the crocodile stitch into this one, we're going to be putting it into this one instead. So what we'll be doing is staggering. So this will be here, here, and in this one on the end. So chain 1, turn our work, what we'll be doing is we're going to slip stitch into this first stitch here, and then you'll be slip stitching into this first V, and then we're going to do 5 double crochets down this post. So once again, if you need to, just pull it out so you can clearly see where you're going in. You need to do 5 into here, chain 1, and then turn your work round so you can get into the post and go up the other side. So again, like I said, if you need to, just lift that up so you can clearly see where your hook's going to go. Okay, and then you're going to, as you did on the previous row, the next lot of V's, you're going to slip stitch into that gap. And then you're going to do 5 single crochets down this post, chain 1, 5 up the other side. And then slip stitch into this one again, the next V, and then double crochet down this post, 5, chain 1, double crochet up the other side, 5. There we go, and then we will slip stitch into the top of this chain 3 here. There we go. So that's 2 rows done. Luckily it's made it clear to show you because the colour actually changed just at the right time, so I actually have 2 rows of 2 different colours. So that's what the repeat looks like. So for my gloves, what I ended up doing was 7 lots of the crocodile stitch. So that'll be 7 foundation rows and 7 of these crocodile stitch rows. So all it is if you just repeat these until you get the desired number. Like I said, I'm going to do 7, so I will have it staggered, so it'll be 1 in the first, 1 second, first, second, first, second, first. So I'll have my last row crocodile stitch be in line with this one. If you repeat the pattern, and then what we'll do is we'll meet back here ready for the next bit. These are my 7 rows complete. So as you can see, not so much from the front but more from the back where you can see these rows. This should match up there. The thing I forgot to say that I will caption earlier in the video is if you are going to do more single crochets here, try and do it multiples of 2, because when we go to sew this together, for every double crochet down here you'll have 2 single crochets you can stitch it to on here. So if you do an odd number of rows you might end up with it being a bit wonky at the end. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew this together. Like I said, this is 18 stitches and this is 14, and like I said, it's probably an illegal crochet move, but what I did is I will stitch it together, but I might skip the odd stitch on here. So normally where I'd go 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 1 stitch, 1 stitch, I might just skip about 4 stitches randomly along just to make sure it fits in. So I will start by sewing from one of the top corners, and then I will probably weave this in as I go down. So I'm going to cut that a bit shorter. And I'm just going to like I said, for every double crochet there is 2 single crochets that I'll stitch it to. So I'll work my way down and sew along this seam, sew these bottom seams together, and then back up the other side. However, you do need to leave room for the thumb hole. So if you make 2 of these, so like 2 of this one and 2 of the panels, when you sew them together, just remember you'll sew them together exactly the same way, except one of them will have the thumb hole on this side, and one will have the thumb hole on this side. So just try and remember to not only include your thumb hole, but to remember to do one on the opposite side. So to do the thumb hole, all I did is, as I'd started sewing it on, I'd sewn this bit on and along the bottom, and then started sewing up here. I'd weaved in the yarn up until I was happy with the size of the thumb hole, and then just carried on sewing it together further up. But I'll show you that when I get there. This is where I finish off the crocodile stitch. So I'm going to pull this through to finish it off, but I'm going to leave a long tail, and that's what I'm going to use to sew it all together, so I don't have to attach any more yarn. And then when it comes to the thumb hole, I will show you how I've done it. So I usually do it, so the first one that I sew together, the thumb hole will be done after these 2 bits have been sewn on, because for the other side, in theory, it will be the same number of stitches, but then you can obviously sew down that way. So I'll sew these bits on, and then I try and show you how I do the thumb hole afterwards. So this is it so far. So as you can see, I've sewn this bit on, and I've sewn this bit together. How I usually do sew them is I do have it inside out, and so I'll sew down here. You can just see where the pink yarn is. That's where I've sewn them together there. So now I need to work up this side. Now, as you can see, this side I've completely sewn it. So this is going to be for my left hand. And there's probably a better way to do this. However, I usually just put it on, and then I can work out roughly how high up to go. And then as I'm going up, I will actually keep putting it on just to check to make sure it's not going to be too tight. So if I do a few stitches up, okay, try it on. So you see there, I'm quite happy with where this sits. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to slip stitch up here until, so I want my thumb hole to be about there. The nice thing with this variegated yarn is I can see where with the colours I need to be. So if I go up to the blue, I then know I can then stitch the rest of that together. So like that. And to me that is comfortable like that. I'll hold these together. So what I'll do, I'll hold them so I can sew on the inside. And what I'll do a couple of stitches, and then after I've done a couple of stitches, I will just double check that thumb hole, because I don't want to go all the way up and then find out I've done the thumb hole too small. There we go. Like for example, I have done it too small, so I need to go back and probably be the end of the blue. So let's just undo that. There we go. So the next thing that we need to do is around here. I'm just going to do 2 or 3 more rows of single crochet. The way that I'll reattach it is I'll just do a slip knot. You can reattach it in any way that you are used to reattaching it. So I'm going to start at this end. And I'm just going to reattach it here. So you can attach it wherever you like. and I'm just going to slip stitch that through to reattach it. So when you are doing your single crochet, you're doing it through the chains along the top of your crocodile stitch here. Now this is the point where if you do want it tighter around here, you probably could do a few decreases as you go around, but because I like it to be loose, I'm not going to. You'll also probably notice that I have changed crochet hooks a couple of times in this video. It's because I took a break between filming and I misplaced my crochet hook that I was originally using, but now I've found it again. I'm going to be using this one again. So just do 2 or 3 rounds of single crochet, which is exactly the same stitch we were doing here. There we go. What we'll do our single crochets and then we'll see you back here. So here we go, the last couple of stitches on this round. The nice thing with the variegated yarn that I have chosen is it will just show you how much of a difference variegated yarn can actually make. So just be careful when you're choosing it, because if this isn't your desired effect, just be careful when you choose variegated yarn, because luckily it has sat really nicely along each row of the crocodile stitch. But like I said, if it's not your desired effect to have that, just be careful what variegated yarn you choose. If you choose a slow variegated yarn, you probably will find that your gloves will look completely different to each other, because by the time the colour has changed from when you start here to finishing up here, you might be starting the second glove with a completely different colour, and as much as it's the same yarn, they might not match. But like I said, it just depends on what you're actually looking for. So once you've done your however many rounds you're going to do round here, if you just fasten it off as you normally would. I said now weave these ends in a moment. Here we go. So there we go. That is how I make my crocodile or dragon scale gloves now. Like I said, I find it a lot easier to do it as this is a separate panel. They sit nicely, so the crocodile stitch only sits on the back. You can see a lot clearer than with the ones I showed you at the beginning how the stitches sit. And like I said, you can make this bit a bit tighter if you like. I might do another tutorial soon, like a part 2, on doing the thumb and maybe something for the fingers, but we will see. So for now though, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope you do give it a go, and please feel free to share with me on Instagram your creations from this. As I said, this was a lot easier for me to do. It looks so much better than my original one that everyone wanted a copy of the pattern for. But I really hope you enjoy it. Please subscribe to support the channel and to see more content, and please feel free to comment below if there's anything that you would like to see on this channel. But happy crocheting, and I'll see you soon. Bye.